My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Well, we're looking at 1 Corinthians 15, the resurrection of 1 Corinthians 15. And Paul said, after saying that Christ was the first fruit, and then next in order would be those who are Christ at his coming, he then said, then comes the end. Now, as I was being raised up, I was taught that's the end of time. That's the end of the Christian age. That is when Christ surrenders the kingdom to the Father and no longer rules and reigns. Now, that's what I was taught. I understand that there are some schools of thought say, well, no, Christ will never cease to reign. There will just be sort of kind of a change in administration, so to speak. But the great question is, what is the end that Paul had in mind? Let me say this as simply as I can. If it cannot be demonstrated positively, without doubt, that the Christian age, the age in which we are now living, will one day come to an end, if it cannot be proven that the literal physical planet will one day be burned up, or if it cannot be proven that this literal physical planet will one day be renovated at the so-called end of time, then guess what? Any futurist view of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 is thereby falsified. If the current Christian age, see, let me put this again, just as simply as I can. If the current Christian age has no end, then 1 Corinthians 15, the fulfillment of 1 Corinthians 15, is not in our future. And here is a remarkable fact. This is something that hit me like the proverbial train years and years ago as I began to re-examine my own eschatology. I discovered that the Bible is explicit that the kingdom of Christ, his reign over that kingdom, the age which is defined by his covenant, i.e. the new covenant age, has no end. Do you catch the power of that? You know, in Daniel chapter 2, 44, Daniel saw the vision of the coming of the kingdom that would be established in the days of the Roman Empire. And Daniel was told that kingdom will never be destroyed. Well, people equivocate and they say, well, okay, the kingdom will never be destroyed. It will just cease to function like it is functioning now. We're going to have more to say about that later. In Daniel chapter 7, 13 and 14, Daniel said, I saw in the night vision one like unto the Son of Man, and he came before the Ancient of Days. Thrones were set, and there was given unto him a kingdom, a dominion, a power of every kindred, tongue, tribe, and nation. And of that kingdom, it shall never pass away. It shall never be destroyed. Again, more on that later. We go back to an earlier book, Isaiah chapter 7 and Isaiah chapter 9, 6 to 9. In Isaiah chapter 9 particularly, we are told that a child would be born. The government would be upon his shoulders. He would sit, he would rule, he would govern. And listen to this, of the increase of his government, that's evangelism, folks. Of the increase of his government, there will be no end. We come to the New Testament, and of course, that's not all the passages in the Old Testament that testifies to the unending nature of Christ's rule and his reign and the kingdom. But in Luke chapter 1, Mary was told that this child to be born of her would be given the throne of David. Now watch this. And of his kingdom, that's the Davidic kingdom, he shall rule forever. Now watch this. And of his rule, there will be no end. No end. In Matthew 24:35, Jesus contrasting his covenant word, his age, with the old covenant age represented by the temple that was about to pass away. Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words, that's my covenant. That's the covenant that defines the present age. But my words will never pass away. And yet we are told one of these days, time will end. There won't be any more evangelism, which is part and parcel of Christ's word. No need for benevolence, which is part and parcel of the gospel of Christ. So we are told that one of these days, the things that are fundamentally a part of the gospel of Jesus Christ will cease to function. We'll have more to say about this later on. But I want to tell you, folks, that means that the gospel of Christ will cease to function. And if Christ's gospel ceases to function, then it violates Matthew 24:35, where Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass, my word will never pass away. In Ephesians 3:20 and 21, Paul gave a song of praise and thanksgiving to God for what he was doing in Jesus Christ. Now unto him, that is God the Father, be glory in the church by Jesus Christ throughout all ages, age without end. G.K. Beale says, and F.F. Bruce says, that the Greek expression that is used there was the strongest Greek expression for endlessness that the Greek language contained. Likewise in Revelation, chapter 11, 15 and following. The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ, and he shall rule forever and forever. Same Greek expression, basically, as in Ephesians 3:20 and 21. The Bible is explicit. It expresses the endlessness of the reign of Christ, of the kingdom of Christ, of the rule of Christ, over and over and over again in a variety of ways that are simply undeniable. Let me say again, if it is the case that the rule, the reign, the kingdom, and oh, by the way, the priesthood of Christ is endless, then the end in 1 Corinthians 15, 19 and following cannot be the end of the current Christian age. Since it is the case that Christ's throne, Christ's kingdom, his reign, his rule, and his priesthood are without end, then it must be the case that the end of 1 Corinthians 15, 19 and following is not the end of the current Christian age. Do you see how powerful that is? Hey, we've got a whole lot more on, quote, the end, unquote, in 1 Corinthians 15. You don't want to miss it. So we'll see you on the flip side.